Alright, let's give this a go. Everyone has been obsessed with Lady Dimitrescu and her sexy goth vampire daughters. Everyone except for me. It's not about how fat their milkers are or the size of their big juicy asses. These charming villains have all the visual appeal and character style that fans everywhere will love forever. So why am I not obsessed with them too? The answer is simple. They probably smell like shit. That's right, Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters, with their beauty and fashion sense, would probably bring tears to the eyes of anyone with a nose in a 100-foot radius. However, while I believe they're stricken with sickening sense, I had no direct proof, as few survival horror characters are born with a sense of smell. So it was up to me to do the research and find out if this lady with a big dumper smells like a big dumper. Warning, there are slight spoilers ahead. If you intend to play through this game as blind as possible, turn back now and return when you've finished at least half of the game. First, let's evaluate their eating habits, since that's what they seem to talk about the most. Exploring the castle, I've found food in multiple locations that give me insight on the way they eat. The results are unsurprising. Assuming they share similar meal plans, House Dimitrescu's diet consists mainly of human meat, which is accordingly a form of red meat. Too much red meat can only lead to one thing. That's right, smelly piss. What little other things they eat don't do much to prevent smelly bodily fluids. There's rotten and blood-covered fruits in some areas of the house. Potatoes are a healthy source of potassium. And onions and garlic are a great source of bad breath. Of course, we can't ignore what they drink. Blood, which is usually odorless on its own, but gives off a metallic scent when rubbed on skin. Unfortunately, the only known effect of drinking blood is a 100% chance of attracting horny vampires. Even more important than the blood is Lady Dimitrescu's other drink of choice, wine, and she seems to drink a fuck ton of it. Due to its availability in the house, I'm going to assume that this is a family-wide drink. It seems to be the only other thing they drink after blood, unless they're hiding a water cooler somewhere in the castle. A wine connoisseur is just another name for an alcoholic. Drinking isn't especially dangerous to the body. However, when you drink as much as Dimitrescu, it's hard not to imagine she's not suffering the same symptoms that an alcoholic would. One of the most common? Terrible body odor. An odor that never goes away, no matter how much you wash. And true to her alcoholism, she doesn't have an interest in stopping anytime soon. Now, it could be argued that the bodies of House Dimitrescu are different from regular human bodies. But it could also be argued that whoever says that is a little bitch. So under the assumption that their bodies have similar properties, we can say that through sustenance alone, they have bad breath, body odor, and smelly piss. Moving on, I'd like to talk about their sexy bodies. Specifically how often they change their sexy clothing. Dimitrescu's servants are nowhere to be seen, and likely perished not too long before the events of the game. But she's had to have servants who've washed her clothes, or at least several different kinds of clothes. But there's no sign of any other clothing for her anywhere, washed or unwashed. Literally nothing else. No underwear or bras. Trust me, I checked. Dimitrescu walks around in a very elegant dress. With the exception of the dress worn in her painting, it appears to be her only clothing. She even has a duplicate of it in her room, a duplicate that looks dirty as fuck. Her daughters have even less evidence of changing their clothes. There's a changing room where there are white dresses that would make any goth vampire bitch look hot as fuck. But other than these dresses here, I can't even prove that her daughters sleep in this castle. You could tell me they were actually homeless people and I'd believe you. But one thing is certain, her daughters probably don't wash their clothes, and their black garbs are the only clothing that they wear. It's hard to imagine that Lady Dimitrescu and the girls wouldn't get a little sweaty from all their activities. But what's a little sweat? It's not like any of these elegant ladies are going anywhere that would dirty their dresses, right? The basement fuck chambers would disagree. A dusty, shit-filled, blood-covered dungeon home to rotting corpses and more blood wine barrels. Without a doubt filthy, and yet they're regularly getting themselves some tasty human juice. There's no windows down there. Ventilation in most areas is likely poor. The smell of shit and rotting corpses is thick in the muggy dungeon air. The only save would be an occasional gust of wind that blows from the connecting areas with any ventilation. It's hard not to imagine them getting dirty and sweaty down there. Dimitrescu's dress is probably clinging so tightly to her voluptuous curves that you could see every inch of her supple, moist body. Trying to keep a white dress clean down there would be like trying to get your parents to support your dreams of being an artist. All four of them hang out down in the basement, partially for pleasure and partially to quench their thirst. Their thirst to be dirty as fuck. But producing odors and covering yourself in shit shouldn't matter if you properly bathe, right? I mean, how hard could it be to take a bath in Castle Dimitrescu? As it turns out, nearly fucking impossible. There only seems to be plumbing in specific areas of the village, and the castle is not one of them. Let's take a trip to their bathroom, titled the Hall of Ablution. Dirty, blood-covered floors, sinks that are somehow the driest looking surfaces in the game, and a giant pool of blood in the middle of the room. That's right, no water, only blood. This pool serves as a pathway to a dungeon as well, leaving me to suspect that they don't even bathe in the blood. As stated earlier, the sinks are as dry as your love life. They're covered in green rust and surrounded by unmarked bottles. Whether those bottles are soap or just more blood is anyone's guess. These sinks are one of two signs of plumbing that I could find in this castle, and neither sink in this room has any evidence of actually being used. The only faucet with any sign of use seems to pour out blood, so I'm not even sure the sinks in this bathroom even flow water. There are two fancy dry toilets, which confirms that people in this family take dumps and go whiz. But there's no toilet paper, no bidets, and no towels anywhere in sight. There aren't even any areas to properly sponge bathe yourself, the most common bathing practice in households without plumbing. Blood baths may be the only baths in this house, if they even have them. With no evidence of bathing or washing their hands with proper soap and water, things are looking grim for these smelly ass bitches. Pun intended. However, there is one place that can prove this whole theory wrong. Dimitrescu's private bathroom. In here we find a cabinet filled with makeup, clean white towels, and a comically large-sized bathtub. A bathtub this large would take a while for it to dry. My initial guess is that it's been at least a day since her last bath. Further investigation of the bathtub shows that there's a brown ring at the bottom of the bathtub, which is a sign that while this bathtub does get used with soaps, it hasn't been cleaned in ages. It's also odd that the ring is at the bottom of the tub. Typically, rings form at the top of the tub where the water is. This leads me to believe that the cleaning staff struggles to empty out the final amount of soapy water, likely due to their size and being unable to easily reach the bottom, thus leaving the rest to dry. This means that there remains a small amount of water at the end of every bath, some of it likely packaged and sold on the internet. This means it would take much longer for the bathtub water to evaporate, growing the time frame of my initial guess from at least a day to at least 2 weeks since Dimitrescu's last bath. Body odor, smelly clothes, dirty bodies, and horrible hygiene. All of the data indicates that Dimitrescu and her daughters are beautiful, and smelly. A dangerous combination that makes me softer than the wonderful softening powers of Bounce laundry detergent. A comparison that I can make because I wash my clothes. The evidence of their effluvium is overwhelming. Before I rest my case, I have one final bit of information to share. A hidden message from someone who would know the ladies of House Dimitrescu very well. Deep in the depths of Castle Dimitrescu, there is a whiteboard. On the whiteboard, you'll find a piece of paper pinned to it. If you zoom in 200% on the paper, you'll find the following statement. For the love of God, this lady and her daughters smell like shit. I just want to go home and read Garfield. It looks like Dimitrescu smells like Dama shit. I'm VeryCoolGuyMike, and I've made my case.